Hello, I'm Cullen Gilchrist, CEO and founder of Union Kitchen, and this is Food Founders, stories from launch to scale. In this episode, we speak with Michael Haft, co-founder of Compass Coffee. Michael, along with his co-founder, Harrison Suarez, bonded over a love of coffee while deployed as Marines in Afghanistan. After moving back to DC, they began experimenting with roasting coffee in Michael's basement. In creating the perfect cup of coffee at home, Michael and Harrison decided to launch Compass Coffee. Today, Compass operates over 12 cafes, all in the DC area, over a 50,000 square foot roastery to support their operations, 250 staff, and over $20 million in revenue. Should be an awesome conversation. Let's go. Hey guys, Cullen Gilchrist here, founder of Union Kitchen. I've got an awesome guest here, Michael Haft, the founder of Compass Coffee. Michael, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's start off. Just introduce yourself. What's your name and what do you do?
So my name is Michael Haft. I'm the co-founder of Compass Coffee. And in a small business, you do a little bit of everything. So, whether it's roasting coffee or going to sales meetings or working on accounting, you do a little bit of everything.
So that's the long answer to what your title is?
Yeah, I mean, I've been called worse,
Yeah. Very cool. So you said co-founder.
Yeah.
So you started this business with a partner.
Yeah, so me and Harrison, my co-founder, we became friends in the Marine Corps while drinking coffee in Afghanistan.
Very cool. And so you guys met in Afghanistan, or?
It's kind of funny. We both went to Washington University in St. Louis, and we were not friends initially, but we were the only two guys who were interested in joining the Marine Corps. And so sort of out of necessity, we started training together, working out, and over time, we became friends and got really close, learning how to navigate with a map and compass while in the basic school in Quantico.
Very cool. So that's where you first started hanging out then, Quantico, and then you went abroad and did Marine things.
Yeah, we were both infantry platoon commanders, and we led 50 Marines or so, each of us, in Afghanistan. And I was working with the Afghan police, and Harrison was working with the Afghan army. And this was in 2011. So it was not a great time to be in Afghanistan. If you remember, that was right after Osama bin Laden was killed, and there was sort of the surge of Marines into southern Afghanistan. So that's sort of the backdrop for Compass. And that's really, me and Harrison would get together about once a week, and we would drink coffee and plan what our missions for the upcoming week would be. And it wasn't good coffee. It was just shitty instant coffee. The kind of stuff that you find in an MRE, which is like a pre-packaged military
So you rip
meal.
open a pouch, pour in a cup, and have a special moment together.
I mean, most of the time you didn't have hot water, so you're just throwing it in a canteen and mixing it up with just whatever water you can find. And really special occasions, you'd boil some hot water, add in a little bit of sweetened condensed milk, and make like a Vietnamese coffee. So that was a real delicacy.
Now, I think a lot of people wouldn't kind of connect, Marines with coffee companies. And so obviously you guys are the founders of Compass Coffee. And so there's this leap from being Marines, having really crappy coffee, to starting a coffee company. So kind of what was this leap that you then make? What fills that story in?
So we were coming back from deployment to Afghanistan, and we were driving up to DC to visit our families.
Because you're both from DC.
Yeah, I'm from DC, and Harrison's from Bethesda, just up the road, and we were visiting our families, and we happened to be in the car, and this podcast came on. It was on NPR. And the host, Tom Ashbrook, was talking about the hot blonde in the coffee shop.
Okay.
And we're Marines. We've been on deployment. We're hot blonde in the coffee shop. That sounds pretty interesting. What could that be about? And it ended up being about Starbucks introducing a blonde roast coffee.
Oh yeah, so that's a light roast coffee.
A light roast, yeah. So it was kind of disappointing that it wasn't something else, but it was actually spurred this entire interest in coffee. Like, what is it to brew the perfect cup of coffee?
Awesome.
And So me and Harrison were like, okay, cool, we're obsessed with coffee now. We just throw ourselves into things.
From
like,
that moment forward.
Yeah, coffee.
Right.
And so we started learning about different brewing methods. We started learning about how to, extract coffee, how to make espresso, what is a French press, what is a Chemex, what's a pour over, all of these super foreign things. And we were living in rural North Carolina. And, with the internet, you can order pretty much anything online. And we were buying beans from San Francisco and New York, and we were tasting all these different flavors. And we were just having a great time learning about it.
Yeah, it's so interesting as we think about like what causes someone to start a business and pour themselves in. One, it's finding a passion, but I find it so interesting how one finds this passion. In your case, it's a podcast, and it's being kind of in a rural area with not a whole lot to do.
Right, it's wild. So we were like, okay, we were brewing coffee one day for a friend, and he's like, I have a furniture store. And I want to serve coffee in my store, but I don't know how to brew coffee. Could you guys teach me? And we're like, cool, we'll actually write a guide for you on how to brew the perfect cup of coffee to serve your customers in the store.
Wow.
And
so you guys are feeling confident. You've been learning.
Oh yeah, we're feeling good. There's a couple months later, and Marines are all about training. We're constantly training. So we're like, okay, cool, we'll write a training on how to make a cup of coffee. And so we have a good time with that. And we're like, you know what? We should write a book about coffee.
Yeah,
exactly. And we write a whole book about coffee, and it's called Perfect Coffee at Home. And it actually becomes the #1 iBook on the iBook store. This is 2013.
2013. Wow.
So we're leaving the Marine Corps. We're still on active duty. And at night, we're writing a book. Literally, we're commuting in together on base. It's 4 a.m., and I'm driving, and Harrison's got his laptop, and he's typing away, and we're talking, and so we write this best-selling cookbook, essentially. And, it's #1 on all the charts. Apple uses it to actually demonstrate on the iPads how to use the iBook store.
Oh, wow.
But at the end of the day, we sell 100,000 copies or something, and we still lose money. So we pretty quickly realize that this is not a good business.
Yeah, as you're thinking about what do you do post-Marines, and you're jacked up and excited about this, wow, we're going to be authors.
Right.
And then you realize you don't want to be an author.
No, we don't want to be authors. I mean, we had all the critical acclaim. We were in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Atlantic. I mean, we were on every radio station doing podcasts, and ultimately...
So outwardly, and maybe to your moms...
Oh yeah,
you look like you're doing well.
Oh no, we thought we were hot shit. People really thought we had something, and sometimes that outward perception doesn't necessarily translate to the commercial success.
Well, so when we talk about this idea of a proxy of success versus success, and this outward appearance, things look great. Well, that's not success,
right?
But sometimes people use it as a proxy.
Yeah.
So people are thinking that.
Oh yeah, you get confused. You're like, but I was on, the New York Times.
I should be successful.
I should have made some money. So I mean, essentially from there, we're like, hey, we really love coffee. We love the community around coffee. We're both from DC. We should just start a coffee roasting business. Yeah. And that's really how we get started. Is we're in my parents' basement. And one night, it's late at night, and you know what? We're like, all right, we bought some green beans. We've got a cast iron skillet. What if we just fire up the cast iron skillet and try and roast some beans? And our first batch was pretty horrible.
This is the first time you've ever done any of that.
Yeah, first time ever.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
we'd visited lots of coffee shops. We talked with lots of coffee roasters. We were trying to learn, how do people do this? And we wanted to figure out if this was something that you could even do. Yeah. Because it was really intimidating.
Yeah, I mean, how do you learn how to roast coffee? I mean, that's not an easy thing. It's not something that you kind of grow up doing. No, and there's really almost nothing online, at least at the time. There was very little written about how to commercially roast coffee because, it's everybody's little trade secret. Nobody's going to be like, hey, this is how you... Playbook.
Right, here's the playbook. Nobody's going to tell you that. So... you start reading blogs and forums, and you search on Reddit and Home Barista, and you start picking up some tricks. And
Yeah.
so over time, we started buying better gear. We started, we got a better roaster. And eventually we start roasting some coffee that's pretty good.
Like you're not just doing it on a flame, but actually making coffee
right.
from green beans in a coffee roaster that's designed for roasting coffee.
Yes, yeah. So we bought a really fancy machine. It was called a San Franciscan, and they were made in not San Francisco, but Reno, Nevada.
That makes sense.
Yeah, of course, where all the San Franciscans are made. And it's a great little roaster. It roasts 1 pound at a time. And that's how we got really good at coffee roasting, was every day, me and Harrison, we would just be in the basement roasting batch after batch after batch after batch, and then tasting them and being like, what made this batch great? What could we do better on the next batch?
It's awesome. So basically, you got this passion for coffee. You take a run out of business with publishing. And you're like, maybe not. So you want to do roasting, maybe a cafe, and you build yourself a curriculum and just start learning. Which is awesome, right? Because entrepreneurs have to learn something that others don't know, or they have to bring it together. And so you're here learning. But you're not yet a business.
No, not at all.
You're in learning phase, but not yet a business.
We're still doing a little bit of the PR for the book, but that's kind of fading. Like we're quickly realizing that that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And, we're trying to figure out like where in the market do we fit? And looking around in DC, there was nobody roasting coffee.
Yeah.
It was wild.
No one, yeah.
Yeah, so in 2013, we're just literally walking around DC and we're like, why is all the coffee not from DC? Like there should be a DC coffee roaster. Like we're both from DC. We love coffee.
This is a major city.
Right, this is a big city. Like we should be able to do this. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of say, damn the torpedoes, like full steam ahead. And we decide to buy a coffee roaster.
Nice.
So
a real one.
A real one.
Not
yeah.
a 1-pounder.
Like $150,000 coffee roaster.
There we go.
It's a big.
That's going all in.
It's all in. So we fly out to, this time actually to San Francisco. and we go see the factory where the machine's being made. And we get a call from our real estate broker who says, that spot that you wanted, the lease fell through with the other tenant. Do you want it? Tell me right now. And we had not really looked at the space. We didn't know anything about construction or utilities or how to build a coffee shop or how to build a factory.
Yeah.
But Harrison was like, he called his brother, Ben, who's here in DC. And he was like, Ben, I need you to go down to the laundromat in Shaw and tell me if this looks like a good building for us. So he goes down there, he looks at it, and we're like,
Ben's in like college maybe?
Yeah. He's in college.
Yeah, he's not a pro.
No, not at all. And we're like, okay, cool. We're going to do it. So we buy a coffee roaster. We don't know how to roast. We lease a building. We don't know how to do construction. But you got to get outside your comfort zone. And I mean, you just have to do it. So that essentially kicks off a sprint towards getting all these skills to come together.
And building a business.
It's
not just learning now.
Yeah.
Now
so
it's a business.
A simple heuristic that we have is, I'll draw a little chart for you.
Yeah.
So you have quality of business plan, and then you have quality of business. Mm-hmm. And they're inversely related. So essentially, the better the business plan, the worse the actual business.
Yeah.
Because you're just bullshitting.
Well, you've had to create all of these things, and if it's a great business, well, it should be very simple.
Right.
In terms of how do you write this out.
Right.
And so for you, it was simple.
Yeah, and so many assumptions in the business plan are wrong. We thought that people drank coffee in the winter. Turns out they don't.
Yeah, I imagine how you get that one wrong, because I did not know what your answer was about to be.
Right. No, I mean, we really thought that the winter months were going to be our best months. So we opened September 21st, 2014.
Okay.
And we think that we're going to have this great run through the winter. And there's no one. We have no customers. And things get busy in the spring.
Nice.
Everybody's outside walking. They're drinking coffee.
It's DC, iced coffees.
Right. It's beautiful weather. We've got nitro cold brew. So, I mean, you can come up with these really basic assumptions in your business plan that are just completely wrong, and you have to iterate on them.
Well, and that goes to the, you've got a business idea, you have a business general model, and if it's good, well, it's time to go.
Yeah,
Don't spend months, years even, perfecting this business plan that doesn't matter.
Right.
It's going to be wrong anyways. And I think that's kind of the takeaway from you guys being like, well, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Let's build.
We didn't know if we were going to be like a restaurant supply business doing commercial roasting. We didn't know if we were going to be a cafe business. We didn't know if we were going to sell coffee online or to grocery stores or a little bit of all of it. So when we opened, we really didn't know which side of the business would grow.
But you did know you were passionate about coffee and that people buy coffee and there's a good business model to be had in coffee.
Absolutely. And then we would figure it out.
Yeah.
And that we would work really hard and we would survive all of these painful lessons to find a business making coffee. We knew that much. And that wasn't going to change.
That's a good start.
Yeah, no, it's a great start. So, I mean, really, we were thinking about which things won't change. We're going to be roasting coffee. We need a coffee roaster. Mm-hmm. It's got to be there. We need some packaging machinery, to put coffee in bags and into tins.
That's how people buy them.
Yes, you have to have a package. So we really, our biggest investments were the coffee roaster, the packaging, designing the packaging. We spent a lot of time doing that. We learned actually how to do it. So, I mean, I learned Illustrator and actually started...
Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah, Adobe Illustrator.
Awesome. And
started designing the packaging. And, Harrison was working on the copy. He was working on the website. He was doing...
And that's this packaging, right?
This package has essentially not changed in 7 years. I mean, we've done little tweaks, but when you really get it right, your customers will tell you. Yeah. Now we're 7 years in and we're thinking about doing a significant update, but it's worth the time up front to really invest in the brand.
Absolutely. So around this time, this is also when we met.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
I always like this story.
Oh, it's the worst. So me and Harrison, we're still roasting coffee in my parents' basement. And we think, okay, cool. We got to go reach out to some coffee shops. And we want to get some marquee accounts here. So we look up who are the best coffee shops in DC. And top of the list, Blind Dog Cafe in Shaw.
And at the time, this is what I'm doing. Me and my sister are running a pop-up cafe in Shaw.
Yeah, I think the part you left out that it was in a gay bar.
Yeah. It was a pop-up inside of a late-night lounge. And we were doing coffees in the morning. It's a very strange setup.
But Blind Dog was literally number one on the list of coffee shops.
Which speaks to where DC was with its coffee culture.
Right,
at this time.
Very primitive. And, we were nervous. We were going to meet with a big deal buyer. We were meeting with the CEO of Blind Dog. And me and Harrison, we had a bag of coffee. And at that point, we didn't even have tins. We had, I think we had the brown paper bag at this time.
Yeah.
And so we bring it, and you kind of look at it skeptically, like, what is this? And ultimately, you were like, I'm not buying from you guys.
Well, we had to understand your hipster credentials.
Right.
You were hipster enough for coffee.
No, we were not.
No, you were not. No, not as Marines.
No.
Coming out.
No, we were wearing boat shoes.
Yeah.
A lot has changed since that time. Union Kitchen didn't exist back then.
Yeah. We were just still going through our process of learning. What are we passionate about, and what does the market have and not have?
Yeah.
And how can we start to solve problems?
Yeah.
And it's all these meetings we had with people like you.
Yeah.
Or that were trying to start food businesses, and there was gaps, there was holes, there was things that made no sense, right?
Yeah.
Where you were learning and they were learning, we were learning as
Right.
well, and thinking about, man, we should build something that fixes these problems.
Absolutely.
How do we help food entrepreneurs start real businesses, solve all these silly problems that exist, and direct themselves towards building things that are going to be actually successful.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're learning this time. We're learning it from you. We're learning it from others. We're learning it from ourselves, running a pop-up cafe inside a weird bar in a weird part of Shaw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in many ways, thinking back to those times, they're fun times. Like,
Yeah, well,
they're happy memories.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were doing wouldn't work.
Right.
This cafe, but it was instrumental to go through that, to learn that, and then be able to take those lessons, build Union Kitchen, build Compass Coffee, and then share those lessons so we can build a lot of great businesses here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And that's been critical for us, and obviously for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing to grow with you guys.
Very cool. So 2014, right? Was it 2014?
Yeah, September 21st.
There we go.
So we made a promise to a Washington Post reporter that we were going to open in the summer of 2014. And so September 21st ends up being the last day of summer. And we weren't ready. Like, we barely had the drinks nailed down. Like, we were still practicing how to make like a latte and a cappuccino. We didn't really know all those things. We only had a few coffee blends figured out then. Like, construction was still halfway finished. We didn't have a menu on the wall. We forgot to do a menu. So like opening day, people would walk in and be like, what do you have?
It's coffee.
Right, it's coffee, yeah, exactly. So we made a lot of mistakes in that first cafe in Shaw. And
that's great.
I mean, every day it was me and Harrison behind the counter talking with customers. If I was the supervisor behind the bar, Harrison was roasting coffee.
Yeah.
And then, if Harrison was working there, I would be doing accounting.
Yeah.
And that's how we learned so much about what customers wanted.
Yeah, and that's one of our core values. Make things that people want.
Oh yeah.
And there's a few ways to learn that, but being in front of people, talking to them, selling them something,
and
seeing if they come back the next day. That's the best way to find out if they want it or not.
Well, we had all of that wrong, and we only figured this out later.
Yeah.
But we thought that we were going to be biscuits and coffee.
Biscuits and coffee.
Biscuits and coffee. Right. It was a hot trend in 2014. And we were going to make the best biscuits in D.C.
And you were going to make them in the coffee shop?
Yeah, we had a little bakery. We call it 7th Street Baking. And so everything had to be as good as the coffee. So we had, amazing coffee. We made our own syrups, like vanilla syrup and chocolate syrup, and we would make marshmallows and all sorts of weird confections. And we were also baking. So we were making biscuits, we were making biscuit sandwiches with little eggs, like little egg quiches.
Oh, yeah.
And every day, customers would come in and be like, so a large dark roast and a croissant.
Yeah.
And then we would be like, I'm sorry, we don't do that. We have biscuits and light roast.
Yeah.
And people were so upset.
Yeah.
And
would they tell you that, or were they just not? You just wouldn't see them again.
They would never come back.
Yeah. You probably smiled and said, "Wow, love it.
Cool.
Glad you're in the neighborhood."
Yeah, welcome. And then they would never come back.
Yeah.
And after enough time, we realized that we were not making things that our customers wanted. Mm-hmm. And we actually came up with a really simple Venn diagram for this. And we use this internally at Compass.
Yeah.
So we have one circle that is things that the world values. The other circle is things that you are proud of making. And the overlap is your business opportunity.
There's your business.
Because you need to make things that the world values, but you also have to make things that are in line with your values. And, the size of that overlapping Venn diagram is going to determine how big the opportunity is.
Well, I think this is such a classic challenge and mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, because they start a business because they're so passionate about something and they just dive in on their passion.
Yeah.
But then, they're making something that people aren't interested in, whatever that may be. Or
that was us.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we won best biscuit in the Washington Post.
That sounds good.
For Thanksgiving, they did a biscuit competition, and we won best biscuit. And maybe we sold 50 biscuits total.
So this is another proxy.
Oh yeah,
success.
yeah. I mean, you win best biscuit, it's like, who cares?
Yeah. For a moment, though, again, you thought you made it.
Oh yeah, we thought we were, quite successful, but no.
Turns out, no, it doesn't matter.
No, I mean, people when they go to a coffee shop, they want, a croissant, chocolate chip cookie, some lemon pound cake,
good coffee.
Oh yeah, no, good coffee. Yeah. So we talk about quality, speed, and friendliness.
There we go.
So our baristas have to be, fast. And obviously making the drinks with high quality ingredients, made to the right recipes. Mm-hmm. And then, customers want you to know their name. They want you
spell it right.
Yeah, exactly. Spell it right to, remember, you remember your regulars, build that connection. Well, and that's much more fun. That's the meaningful part of the business is building relationships with people over time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people get married. We've had proposals at Compass. We've had babies grow up visiting Compass. Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing to watch, over the course of these years.
Yeah, it's been what, 7
years. Yeah. So, I mean, literally, there's children whose parents went on dates to Compass. No, I mean, it's crazy. We used to see this. And, yeah. I mean, I still see these kids. I mean, it's wild.
Well, in a coffee shop, historically, but even here in D.C., I mean, it's the center of, people's day.
Oh, yeah.
You start it there. Maybe you take breaks there.
Yeah.
You're there Monday to Friday. You're there Saturday and Sunday. Coffee,
oh, yeah.
And then the people around that coffee become integral to your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's so cool and it's exciting. But so anyways, we were talking about this Venn diagram you're drawing and then finding that middle piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you talked about biscuits, you talked about light coffee. What was the point where those two circles met for you guys? What was this business that you honed in on listening to your customers?
It took us quite a while to figure this out. And you don't get it all overnight. But we started doing light, medium, and dark roasts. Mm-hmm. It sounds super basic, but that one thing meant that there's a customer who wants a light roast, there's a customer who wants a medium roast, there's a customer who wants a dark roast.
Yeah.
We started offering, different milk choices. So whole milk, non-fat milk. Back in the day, it was soy milk. Now it's oat milk and almond milk. But really just asking our customers, and being genuinely curious as to what they had to say. And there's all sorts of things that we used to look down on that now we understand on a much deeper level. We make a blended drink called a Vienna now.
Okay.
And so it's a blended cold brew.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. We used to think, you can't ever make a good version of those drinks, but we were wrong. You can just use great cold brew and vanilla syrup and create a delicious drink that people are going to love.
People love that stuff.
They do. And I was skeptical at first, and now I'm a believer in it. I mean, I think it's awesome.
I love a blended drink. Can't always admit it, but...
Right. No, I mean, it's so much more fun, honestly, being freed from some of those constraints.
The constraints being what you thought was cool or what maybe others are saying is cool. And being freed, meaning now you're just listening to customers and seeing how they actually spend their dollars with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we can have fun. We can ask people, hey, do you like this dark roast? And there's no ego in it. It's not like I'm trying to push something on you that you don't want. It's me legitimately trying to meet your needs as a customer.
Trying to understand the circles of that diagram.
Yeah.
Each day.
Compass is not for everyone. There are lots of things that we don't offer. You really can't be for everyone. You have to decide, who your customer is or what, types of customers you're interested in serving. I mean, there's some people who say Compass is too expensive for me.
Yeah.
Well, we use really high quality ingredients and we have amazing customer service and, the build out is beautiful. So
that's the other side of that Venn diagram, right? We talked about the entrepreneur who only does the thing that he likes or that they like. The other side of it is the business that just does whatever people say they like, whatever they say they value, which is going to drive you towards, you have to make the highest quality product at the lowest price ever,
right?
And you have to be super fast, but somehow have all these, complex things.
Right.
You have to start to figure out where your passions and some of those things meet.
Yeah.
And that's your market, that's your business.
Yeah.
And then once you figure that out, we call that product market fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now go build, because now you've got it figured out in maybe a small place. Now do it in a bigger place.
Yeah, and that's really what we've been doing the last 7 years is once we figured out our first cafe, once it was really humming, once we felt good that we could train new baristas, that things weren't on fire all the time, we opened a second location, and then we opened a third location, and now we have 15 locations, and we're close to $20 million in revenue. And
not bad.
We got about 250 employees.
And you also, and those are serious numbers, right?
Yeah.
You're not necessarily a large business, but you're building something.
Yeah.
You also are doing consumer packaged good products that we're looking at here. You have a whole line of them.
Yes.
And then you do wholesale as well.
We do. So in the early days of Compass, just trying out all these different lines of business, we really focused on growing the cafe business first. That was the one that we cared most about. That was the one that was commercially viable. We had a very small roaster at the time. So our cost of roasting coffee was quite high.
Yeah.
We couldn't be competitive in the grocery store. So it was literally too expensive to sell the coffee in the grocery store and make money. But we wanted to learn about that business.
Yeah.
So we, through Union Kitchen distribution, we got into Whole Foods in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And so we've been in Whole Foods for about 6 years, and some other local stores. We're in Union Kitchen Grocery.
Absolutely. So a lot of companies.
Yeah. We're in Streets, we're in Yes, we're in Mom's. We're in all the specialty grocery stores in the DC area. But we weren't making any money doing it.
But you were learning.
We were learning a ton.
The same process of learning what the customers actually wanted,
yes,
but through other retailers.
Yeah. And one of the things that we learned that's super different from our cafes, in the cafes, people want to buy whole bean coffee. And what we learned in grocery was that most of the customers actually want ground coffee.
Yeah, because they don't have a fancy setup at home.
They don't have a grinder. They're looking for a convenient way to brew coffee at home.
Yeah.
And so that was, this one simple thing that helped us really grow in grocery. And that just came from talking to customers and removing ourselves from the equation.
Your ego,
right,
stepping out and just fully trying to understand what the market was really asking for.
Yeah. Every coffee person knows that whole bean coffee is better.
It tastes better.
It tastes better.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. It tastes better. It's fresher. It tastes better. That no one's going to say that ground coffee is better.
No one.
No one's going to say that. But in your customer's preference equation, they prefer the convenience of a ground coffee. And they're also looking for high quality.
Absolutely.
So there's a place for that, and we can do that.
Yeah, and so you start doing ground coffee, you rolled out other formats, you've got just easier to use ones.
Yeah, with the pandemic, with people stuck at home, we saw that people wanted K-Cups, they wanted Nespresso capsules, they wanted single-serve coffee at home.
Which makes perfect sense, right? We all want that. We've all been drinking coffee at home for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And so what's the best way to do that? Well, for many people, it's the K-Cup, it's the Nespresso pods.
Yeah, it's super convenient. And just like everything else, we started on a really small scale. We bought a little benchtop machine that fills little cups.
One at a time.
It fills one cup at a time. And then you put it in this other machine, and then it seals just one cup at a time. Yeah. And then you move back over, and then you fill one cup, and then you seal one cup. Yeah. It is a very frustrating process.
But that's how you start.
Yeah, no, that's how we launched it.
You don't go and buy a $5 million machine. You start literally on tabletop, benchtop.
Oh yeah.
You get a little machine. You do your process. You build it. You find out if customers agree with your thesis.
Yes.
That they want it.
Yeah.
And then you start to build your process from there.
Yeah, so we've jumped from benchtop as our first iteration to now we have an automated machine that's doing about 60 cups a minute.
And that's continuous.
Oh yeah, it just runs.
Conveyors.
Yeah, we've got conveyors and feeders, and I think we're going to outgrow that machine in the next few months.
Beautiful.
Oh no, it's awesome.
People want these things.
Right. And that's the process, is literally you get the benchtop, you get the semi-automatic, you get the automatic, you get the bigger automatic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very cool.
And for our production facility, I mean, we started with about 3,600 feet in Shaw. Very small space. About half of that was the cafe.
Yeah, so you were doing it in the cafe. You were roasting and serving coffee in the same space.
We wanted customers to be able to see the entire experience. So we built this glass cube around the roaster. And it's a place for customers to come walk up. You can talk to the roasting team. You can see what they're doing. You can see all the different beans, all the countries we're sourcing from. And you can also see at the same time, if you just turn just a little bit, you can also see espresso shots being pulled and baristas steaming milk. And I mean, it's a really cool experience to be able to have like that open chef's kitchen showcasing how we make the coffee.
Well, I think connecting the idea that this is made in DC.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about being made in DC, and you were making it visually clear to everyone that, no, we're making it right here and turning it around and making your coffee.
I had never seen green coffee until buying, a couple pounds online in 2013.
I'd say most people have no idea what it looks and smells like.
Most people who come into our cafe have never seen green coffee before. And it's amazing when you're sitting behind the roaster counter and you see somebody walk up and look at the big machine and you're like, would you like to see some green coffee? And you say, you pull out the bag and you pull out coffee from Ethiopia and you let them smell it, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that the coffee was green.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
I remember I had that moment.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It's really cool. Seeing the whole process, the beans transforming is awesome.
Very cool.
So, I mean, these days we've grown into a new facility.
Yeah, so the next question was kind of like, what are you building next? What happens now?
So we've got a 50,000 square foot facility.
So that's about almost 15, 20 times bigger than your first one.
Yeah. It turns out there's a lot of things you can do with forklifts. There's a lot of things you can do with automation and a loading dock. But really our first roastery and cafe, that was our proof of concept. We wanted to see if we could roast coffee. We wanted to see if we could run a good cafe.
Yeah.
We wanted to see if we could sell coffee in the grocery store. We wanted to see if we could sell coffee online. And once we proved out all those different things, we committed to this huge new facility. And now we've got automated roasting and we've got quality control and there's a whole production team.
And is it the same thing? So it's in DC and customers, can they come and watch this just like they could in Shaw?
Oh yeah. We wanted to keep that open floor plan so that people could come in, get a cup of coffee, and then watch the roasting happen.
Just a lot bigger.
It's a lot bigger. And
cool.
no, I mean, it's fun. I mean, these are the scaling challenges. Peter Thiel talks about the hardest thing is going from 0 to 1, and that going from 1 to 10 is much easier, and then going from 10 to 100 is super easy, essentially.
I agree with that.
That the hardest step is literally just getting that first step going.
To figure out what it is.
Yeah.
What is one?
Right.
How do I define that?
Absolutely.
And then once you get there, it becomes more straightforward. Cool, we have to do that more.
Yeah.
We have to do it bigger, and there's challenges and things to learn, but you understand it's a straight line, or ish.
Right. Still challenges, still plenty of challenges every day. But no, I mean, we're scaling the business. We're now regionally in Whole Foods, which is awesome. I mean, Union Kitchen has taken us to Giant Food, which is cool.
Yeah.
We're
a lot of coffee there.
We're in New York, so we're in all the bodegas in New York. You can find us at like West Side Market and those kinds of places. And
so cool.
we're in great restaurants in DC. I mean, something like half the Michelin-starred restaurants serve Compass, and we're at Georgetown University's campus, and it's just a tremendous honor to be supporting all these other businesses, serving coffee.
Well, you've been so committed to DC, which I really love. You built all these cafes here, you built all these things here, and you're focused on made in DC, which is really cool. Which kind of leads me into that. I like to end these conversations with two things. One, what is it that you're most proud of in that you've built in this business? And then I think a little more fun is, what's the thing that you messed up? What's the biggest mistake you've made that allowed you to really learn and bring you further in the journey?
I would say both answers are people.
Okay.
People. And I don't think that most entrepreneurs are thinking about building a team on day one.
Yeah.
And I would say the most rewarding part of this whole thing is building a really strong team, and just coming in every day and working with people who are, motivated and competent and, passionate about coffee.
Yeah.
That's by far the most rewarding thing.
Very cool. And that was a mistake for you. You had to learn that lesson.
The biggest mistakes are also about people, that having the wrong person in the wrong job, hiring, somebody who, is maybe not the right fit, or, not training them properly, because that's, my mistake, to not train someone properly. So
well, it's a hard thing. I mean, you obviously had a lot of experience, in the Marines, right? Training, it sounds like, a group of 50 Marines, but it's a hard lesson to learn. How much do you train someone? And the answer is, not enough.
Right. It's actually much easier to lead Marines than it is to lead a team of baristas. Yeah, no, it is. The Marines must follow your orders.
I mean, they have guns, yeah. So
if you say we're getting up at 4 a.m. and we're going for a 20-mile hike, yes, sir.
Marines do that.
Marines do that. Baristas are no, they are not as motivated by that. So a lot more of the leadership style has to change. Everything is voluntary. You have to be showing people why you should do things a certain way, or how a new way of doing things would be better.
Yeah. How do you bring them in on this passion, this excitement that you have? Because you're excited to be here. And how do you build a team that's learning and creating that passion themselves? That's a real challenge.
Yeah.
But, obviously something that you guys have learned over time and are starting to really execute on. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that, and thanks for this whole conversation. I think there's a lot to take away from. There's a lot to learn, even in just such basic lessons of, making things people want that align with your passions.
Yeah.
That's everything, right? But somehow so hard.
It is quite hard, and often you get in your own way.
Yeah.
That was something for me and Harrison to figure out. It's like, we had to just get out of our own way, sometimes. It's I
understand that. Cool. Well, thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. We'll have to do this again.
Great.
Thanks for listening to Food Founders. If you like today's show, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We'll see you next time on Food Founders, stories from launch to scale.